Honestly, the incompetence, the incoherence of this government, the lack of direction is so extraordinary that I think I smell political death. Joining me is the panel, Cameron Milner, former Chief of Staff to Labor leader Bill Shorten, now Director of GXO Strategies, and Michael Costa, former New South Wales Labor Treasurer. Cameron, it's just astonishing. Every week we say this, I think, but it has been an absolute horror week for the Prime Minister. He's looked rattled. The Tourette syndrome insult that he has had to apologise for instance, what's happening with him? Where is this going?
Well, Australian politics reached a new low because of Albo's, slur on people with disability, Andrew. I mean, it was disgusting, but it rolled off his tongue so easily, didn't it? So easily. And that's what I think we're seeing. We're seeing the real Albo. This is what he's really like. This is what he's like with Tony Burke and Penny Wong in private when he throws slurs around like this. It was disgusting. It dishonoured the Labor Party, dishonoured the role of Prime Minister, and it was awful for anyone who's either got a disabled relative or a disabled child to hear that from the leader of Australia. So he should hang his head in shame, Andrew, but I think he's losing it. I think he's under such incredible pressure, much of it self-made, and he's absolutely losing it in front of our public gaze.
But Michael Costa I think is losing it in part because, well, simply is facing the fact that his incompetence, his mistakes, the government's drift is coming back to bite him. I mean, I showed last night Jews in Melbourne on Sunday, the commemoration for the dead a year ago, October 7. They were heckling him because they feel they've been betrayed, to show no leadership. And I think that's coming really for him. I think he realises that now.
Look, the government's completely rattled, and their behaviour on Israel has been appalling. Trying to send two messages, one to Western Sydney and western suburbs of Melbourne, is really not working. People are seeing through it. The behaviour on that motion was appalling, and it's political misjudgment after political misjudgment. And you can see that this is a rattled government. And I don't see any solution going forward because the economic issues are still there. They're not being able to be addressed, and they won't be addressed in the short term.
Well, I just wonder where it's all going to land, Cameron. I mean, are we looking at the first one-term government in our history? Or is it going to stagger through to something worse, ruling in coalition almost with the Greens, not in formal coalition, but needing their every support?
It could be all those things, and certainly Albo is doing his level best to make sure that Labor loses the next federal election. But look at the caucus members, look at his deputy leader, look at the people behind him. They're shocked on their faces with just how appallingly bad he actually is.
Yeah. I did notice that, although there was some laughing who should now hang their heads in shame and be glad the camera didn't pick them up. Michael, today the government did try desperately to shift the conversation by raising repeatedly in Parliament a new scare campaign that the Liberals are going to sell the NBN if they get into government. Have a listen.
We know the coalition wants to sell the NBN just like they sold Telstra.
The NBN was built by Australians for Australians, and it belongs to Australians. And it belongs in public hands, Mr Speaker, because it should be affordable and accessible to all Australians.
And the government's proposing a law that will bind the hands of future governments to stop them selling the NBN, which is a joke. Would the Liberals really sell the NBN, Michael Costa, and should they?
Well, it's unsaleable, Andrew. I mean, let's be clear what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an entity that costs $60 billion to put together, and it's probably worth between 20 and 30 billion. And last year it lost $1.1 billion. Look, the reason nobody will sell this in government is that you'll have to bring all of that debt to book, and it'll increase the reported government debt. And, it's quite an extraordinary scare campaign. It's just mad, to be honest with you. It confirms the view that this is one of the worst Labor governments we've ever had. Let's not forget that Julia Gillard sold Telstra shares to set up the NBN, if I remember rightly. And then we go back to Hawke, there's CBA, Qantas, Australian Airlines, OSAT from memory, and a range of other entities were sold by the best Labor government, and that was to put the funds somewhere else. But unfortunately, the NBN is a dud. It's got competition from things like Starlink, the Musk entity, which are providing in regional Australia services much more effective and much more cost effective. So look, I don't know who would buy it. I don't see the super funds standing to buy it. It's a disaster.
Yeah, but the whole thing is so stupid about this, Cameron, is that selling the NBN was actually Labor's idea from the start. Here is then Labor Prime Minister Kevin Rudd in 2009 promising exactly that when announcing this mega NBN scheme. Here he is.
The government will make an initial investment in this company but intends to sell down its interest in the company within 5 years after the network is built.
Did Albanese's office actually forget that?
No doubt, no doubt. And look, Andrew, this was a look squirrel moment, wasn't it? Throw a scare campaign out there to distract people from the Tourette's comment. I mean, this is just politics 101 just done badly by these guys. So nothing to see really here, just a scare campaign, Andrew.
Well, I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see the papers tomorrow. I suspect not. I don't think the public's heart is beating pat-a-pat-a-pat for the NBN like it might have done for Medicare. Michael, today the former Labor Senator Fatima Payman launched her own political party. Now, as you know, she quit Labor for not being more anti-Israel over Gaza, so she stole the seat from them. But today she didn't mention Gaza. She tried instead to make the party seem much broader. She was quoting the Liberals' founders, Robert Menzies. She was quoting Gough Whitlam on the Labor side, trying to appeal to all. Except she couldn't actually say what her policies were. Here she is.
It is with great humility and deep responsibility that I announce the formation of Australia's Voice, a new political party for the disenfranchised, the unheard and those yearning for real change.
What's the purpose of the party?
Great question, Tom. We're obviously launching the party today. The policy platform will come in time, and I'm very excited to publicly announce them in due course.
What do you make of this, Michael? Is this party going to have any impact?
Absolutely none. She's a political amateur, political fraud, you could argue. Albanese is right on one thing. If she's serious about this, she should resign, hand the seat back to Labor and stand in her own right with her, nascent political party and its policies. I will be really intrigued to see what their policies are on gay and trans rights. That will be interesting to see. And I'm sure that you're going to see this thing, disappear very, very quickly. But she should resign. I mean, she's there on false pretenses.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, isn't it, Cameron?
Oh, well, Australia's voice, Albanese voice, didn't she see what happened in the referendum? I mean, this is a political tragic, looking for a campaign. But seriously, she will now have to rule out getting political funding and sponsorship from Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. Because she's not an Australian voice, she's an apologist for Islamic extremists. Let's call it as it is. And let's rule out that those evil actors around the world don't fund her political party to do more evil in Australia. She has to rule out being funded by Iran. That's what she has to do, Andrew.
Well, I'm sure she would rule out being funded by Iran, and she would say, she's not supporting Islamic terrorism of any kind. But she is giving comfort, I would think, inadvertently, to people of very radical disposition here. I mean, let's not forget how this all started. She wants Labor to be even more anti-Israel. I mean, for heaven's sake. Michael Costa, Cameron Milner, thank you very much to you both.